Hey art lovers, welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. My name is Jeanne Marie. I'm an artist based out of Tennessee. As you can see, we're working on a portrait. In fact, this is a self-portrait. Right now, I'm just taking a piece of tracing paper and copying my sketch in case I want to practice again later. Today, I'm using gouache in this video. As you can see, I've done a half-hearted attempt at a grid. A friend of mine swears by it, and her paintings are always very, very good. She does more realism than I do. I'm more of an illustration kind of person. She swears by it, so I thought I would try it, and it did help, and I would use it again in the future. I'm still learning about color theory. Skin tones are very challenging to when you're starting to mix colors, but I think the sooner you just kind of dive in and get away from using colors straight out of the tube and start mixing your own colors, the quicker your things become to look a little bit more interesting. So don't be scared to go, what does these two colors do when I mix them together? What do these three colors do? Just kind of get in there and work it out in the work, as they say. I'm just drying a layer. You can still see the grid through the first layers of the paint because I thinned the gouache down a lot with water. I don't know, it feels like safer to do really thin, translucent washes before building up the heavier layers. You know, maybe watercolor is probably a better tool for that. I don't think that's how gouache is supposed to be used, but it's what I felt comfortable with. I was having fun, so no harm done. And I'm just going in with some of the darker colors, trying to build form and mixing colors too, practicing mixing colors and seeing what I can come up with. Trying to dry it in between just so it kind of builds on each other and it doesn't turn into a muddy mess, because that is something that happens quite frequently if you're an impatient artist, which I have been for a lot of years, and I have lots of practice of making mud. But now I've learned that it's best to either work on multiple projects at once or dry it in between layers. So that was like the first layer, you know, down. Good hour of painting. And then I waited for that to dry and kind of went back and started to add some more layers. I wanted to do just playing, really. No rhyme or reason. I am looking at a reference photo, but it didn't tell me to do the background green. You know, it didn't say put this lighter green around the figure. I just did that. On the left, you can see a color chart from a previous day when I was mixing colors, just to see if I mix these two together, do I get what, you know, to see what these colors can do. I'm just building up layers, trying to cover the grid, really, at this point, mixing colors, blending, trying to keep the form. Looks like my camera is not in the right spot. I still haven't figured out how to get the best shots of my art making process. You know, it's one thing to like make stuff and get your hands in it and just, that's where I thrive. Coming up with ideas and like making something out of nothing, and the whole creative adventure is just where I get my excitement and joy from. I just love the whole process of that. But in order to like share it with other people, to either start a business or just like share your process, or try to connect with other people who make stuff, like capturing what you do is a whole other skill set. And the YouTubers that I watch just make it look so easy and beautiful. Like it's just a natural process, but they really spend tons and tons of time getting the right shots and working on the lighting, not to mention the editing and music and things that go into it. Like, it's just, you really could have an entire team of people to help you fulfill your, mission of getting your point across. Yeah, I'm still working on it. Just trying to keep the lights light, still blending colors, reds, yellows, browns, white. Trying to blend, but honestly, once gouache is down on the paper, it is really hard to blend it unless it's still pretty wet. And I find it's just easier to make your blends in the dish, and not too much blending on the paper is going to happen unless it's super wet. And it's not the easiest medium to work with, to be honest. For me, I have found. I really like the way that it looks, though. It's just so different than anything else. It's like one of those things, you just have the love-hate relationship with it. It's just so neat looking. But I'm trying to teach myself how to use it. I bought this gouache set last year in 2021, and then I actually got a second set, a different brand, Arteza brand, 2021 for Christmas. So I haven't got to use that other than just sketchbook, messing around. I wanted to use this setup first and start exploring with it more. I don't want to hoard supplies. I want to just use what I have. As much as I love supplies, I have tons. It's not really about the supplies. When I first started doing art, I've dabbled in it throughout my life, on and off. And this last time that I really got serious and focused on doing art, I thought if I had more professional supplies, that would translate to better art. And my art has only gotten better the more art that I do. It really has nothing to do with the supplies. It is fun to experiment with new supplies, but realistically, it's not about the materials. Your skills are going to get better the more that you make. And that's the truth. I'm sure there's those rare people out there that just have a natural eye to be able to look at shapes and be able to draw them more 3D, or be able to tell the lights and the darks easier, but for most people, it's just a matter of building up your hand-eye coordination and just making stuff over and over. Making a lot of bad stuff, honestly. I mean, probably for every like 25 pieces of art that I make, I'll make one piece that I like. So it's important to make a bunch if you ever want to have some that you make, which that you like, you know. So I guess I did not like the way that hair looked, because now I'm just going over it again. For me, I may have a plan when I go into something, like I'm going to work on a portrait, but I don't typically pick out which colors I'm going to use first. Now I have, in another self-portrait that I did, like I picked a handful of colors because I wanted it to be, it's on a canvas. It's a lot bigger, so I kind of wanted it to be more cohesive. But just messing around on paper or in a sketchbook or something, like I just play most of the time, see what colors work good together, see what techniques I like, while simultaneously working on a subject in a different medium to kind of see what I like. So there's a lot of things happening when you do art, you know, and even if it's a failed attempt at art, you're actually only doing yourself service by giving yourself more information. You're figuring out, okay, I don't like doing portraits, or I do like doing portraits. Okay, I do not like using gouache, or you might find that it's really challenging and you love it. So every time you participate in something, just remember, if it doesn't work out, you've learned something new about yourself. Maybe you don't like that subject, maybe you like that medium. You know, art is such a huge world, and everybody has a place in it. If you want to make stuff, there is a place. I'm adding my gray hairs back in. Worked very hard to get those. Do not want to lose those in my self-portrait. This video is actually speeded up 20 times in iMovie. I actually tried to make the first couple videos on Adobe's software. And it was really hard, very complicated. And every time I would click on something, it would mess something up. Every time I would try to drag something or highlight something, it was just too much for me. So I was like, I'm just going to try to do something a little bit simpler, since my expertise is not video making and video editing. My hobby and my passion is making art, and that's what I really wanted to bring back to the videos. As much as I like the art YouTubers that are putting their stuff out there, I love their art. The art making portion of it is so small in comparison to their edited material. You know, I understand they have to put content out, and they're making this beautiful content for us, so they can't spend too much time making the work, because they're on to the next thing for the next video. Totally get it. But I would just like to contribute more art to the art making YouTubers out there. Whether or not there is a want for that, I don't know. These longer videos. Now, the real-time footage of all of this process is probably like 4 hours, which I don't know that anybody wants to sit and watch me paint for 4 hours and just experiment around. But I think at least this video is about 30 minutes of footage. There is one YouTuber that does a lot of live stuff, and she chats the whole time. Marry Me Small Art. She's actually the first YouTuber that I've ever watched. I remember specifically, I searched mixed media art, and her art was the first one that came up. And so I was like blown away by the stuff that she was making. I was like, oh my God. And it just totally inspired me to get back into making art again. Helped me through some really crucial times. Just adding some warmer tones, it looks like, and trying to blend those. Still just trying to manipulate this material. It's just so interesting. Plus, I don't know what I'm doing with portraits. Like, I'm a self-taught artist. What do I know about making art, you know? All I know is from looking, trying to learn how to see. Now, with that said, I did take a 2-dimensional art class back a million years ago. 2008, 2010, I don't know, 2006, I don't even remember. And then a few years ago, I was like, I want to be an art teacher. And so I took drawing 1, which was only about a month or 2 in before COVID hit. And so he sent us basically to YouTube for the rest of the semester while we were out of school. And then I took a 3-dimensional art class, which was interesting, but not for me. I'm glad it kept me inspired and kept me making work, but like I didn't like it. It wasn't the right fit. I wanted to work in my sketchbook. I didn't want to like build stuff and use power tools. I had the most fun in that class with like a macaroni project, little small pieces. We had to use like big industrial materials, and I'm like, this is just not for me. And so after that class, I was just not able to take any more classes from, due to my lifestyle. But I'm like, if people can do art on their own, then that's what I'm going to do. And so I really just kind of hit it hard, trying to figure out, what do I even like to make? What even material do I like to use? And I'm still figuring that out, honestly. I have some good ideas of things that I'm more interested in than others, things that I like, things that I have more experience with, but I cannot say for sure I am this kind of artist. I tell people I'm a mixed media artist because I do a lot of different things. And I haven't really decided on a subject. So that's why you'll probably see a bunch of random stuff on this channel, is me figuring that out. And I think one day I will fall into something and be like, this is cool. I want to see what this does for a while, and then maybe work on a small business or something that incorporates that. But I think I'll always be somebody who kind of hops around and tries different mediums because I love it all. I love the tools, I love the materials, I love the subjects. I like how you can take any one element of all of this and study it further. Just for example, if I wanted to just study about the color red and do studies on different red hues and how they're made and where it comes from, or different subjects that include the color red, apples and fire and dragons or whatever, like, you can really break it down to any little thing. I don't know. I think the coolest part though, like, is not just taking these pigments, these minerals, whatever they're made from, mixed with these polymers and, like smushing them around on a page to make an image. I think really good art is more than that. Yes, it is about an interesting technique. How did they get that on paper? But I think it also needs to say something, like, why are you making this? Is it to share a story? Is it to put beautiful things in the world? Is it to bring attention to a social issue? I don't know. Artists have a responsibility, I think. They're like the eyes and the ears of the world. They have a way of absorbing information in and then putting it back out there. And so I think good artists, not people who do art for fun and just like to play and, that's one thing. Sunday painters and hobbyists, there is nothing wrong with just loving art and making art to make art. Absolutely not. But people who want to take the obsession of making beautiful things and elevate it to either a business or like social awareness, they have a responsibility. It's just such a huge field. I just adore it. I have a minor in art history, and that is where this love began. I just wanted to stare at it and learn about it for the longest. And then I tried to make art, but it was so bad. I didn't even know where to begin. I didn't even know that you could use a sketchbook for the longest time. Never even thought about it. When I first started doing art as an adult, I was like, well, if I'm going to make art, I got to have canvas. I got to have paint. Went to the art store and I bought oil paint. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know that is a traditional medium, or that is a medium that is very not a starter medium, I had to figure all of that out. I think oil paint is more advanced, and I just jumped right into it and wondered why my paintings didn't look good. I didn't know how to draw. Still don't really. Still learning. After a break from the oil painting, I jumped back in with acrylic paint and started doing paint pouring about 8 years ago. And then I really got interested in like pattern making with the paint pouring. It was more of trying to make patterns out of it. And then so I started making more like pattern art, repeating shapes, lines, colors. And it wasn't really until like the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, where I was like, if you're really gonna take this up a notch, you need to focus. And so then I started focusing on really specific skills like anatomy, gesture drawing, color theory, things like that. It was just really more intentional. I still had plenty of days where I was just doodling cute animals and random stuff. I would just have a word prompt of the day and just kind of do something. Still do that now. I still, like, literally this week I just was like, okay, just want to do stuff that I'm interested in, and just did fun little sea critters, and I loved it. So it looks like I'm done with the gouache, and I'm going back in with color pencil, Prismacolor. Just darkening up some of the roots, adding some interest. Really, it just makes it come alive. Mixing the medias, I think. There's nothing wrong with just one plain medium. But just something about having this multiple layers of different things, just for me, I find it more visually appealing. If you're just simply looking at an image, you know, like this one that has no story or anything, it's just a self-portrait. It's just an exploration. It's just a study, you know, how to grid, color theory, proportions, things like that. Just kind of messing around, you know. Why not go crazy with it? Just trying to darken some shadows according to the photo. I don't know that that really looks anything like me, but I still had a really good time making it. I definitely think I need more practice on noses. And you know, the other thing that I notice that I struggle with is form. Really getting a three-dimensional shape on a two-dimensional surface. And with a front profile picture like this, that's not easy to do for sure. Than if I had like a 3/4 view. But I think a lot of my images are very flat looking. So that's something I need to work on in the future. Building up those shapes so they have more form. You can feel the person. It looks more three-dimensional. Without crossing over to realism, because I really have no interest in that. As much as I think, I look at realism and I'm like, that is just so painstakingly perfect. You know, there is a special talent in that, and I appreciate that, but that's not what inspires me. I'm happy with that. For a first attempt at a self-portrait, and then I tried it a couple other times, a couple other palettes. But I did like the first one the best, honestly. This one, I don't even know why I used those colors. Just random, just trying it out just to see what happens. And I like the colors of this, but that one really doesn't look like me at all. But I just wanted to see what would happen. So there's where it started with the sketch. And then that was the first one that I did, and that ended up being my favorite. And that was the second one. I watched the Goonies while painting that. And the third one. Good practice, good times. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.